Assalamu alaikum. This is Zainab Siddiqui from Zenflix, and you're watching season one of Meeting Medical Animators Across the Globe. Uh, we have Patrik along with us. Say hi, Patrik.
Hey everyone.
And Patrik is a medical animator and illustrator and a 3D journalist. Uh, and he's worked with different companies. And we'd like to talk to him and see how his experience had been while working in this field, as this field is quite small and shrinks. And we want to know more about him and about his career. So yeah, Patrik. My first question to you is what inspired you to become a medical animator, and what was your path into the industry?
First of all, thank you so much for the invite. And hello, all the listeners and viewers we might accrued eventually. As for what inspired me to become a medical animator, I know I'm one of those. I used to be one of those weird kids that was kind of on the precipice of being both in the sciences and in the arts, and could never really decide.
Yeah.
So I ended up with my high school route pointing towards medical sciences and medicine. And then I pivoted into design and art for my undergraduate degree. And during that undergrad, I felt like something was missing. Like I still had the curiosity that, is part of the quintessential part of doing sciences. And I did love research, and I did have the foundational bits and bobs of understanding biology and biological sciences that I still wanted to use for something. So I did a little bit of sleuthing, a little bit of looking around, and found out that there's something called medical or scientific communication or scientific art, and looked into that. Luckily for me, the university where I did my design undergraduate degree, University of Dundee, had a medical and forensic art master's degrees. So I looked into that. I cheekily snuck into a couple of their lectures just to see what the thing was about, and fell in love with it, really.
Yeah.
So,
I can relate to your story because I was the person who I wanted to be in the field of medicine, but I just not wanted to, become that person that had to be 24 hours on the call. And I had this love for design, and I just wanted, to be in between of somewhere where science and art meets. But, it just happened that I got into this field. So yeah, I can get, I got your point. Patrik, do you think is a certified degree essential to break the market, to stand out from the others? Like you have a degree and you have done MSc in medical art, and how do you feel yourself that you have differentiated yourself from others that don't have the degree?
right.
What do you think about it?
Um, I used to think that was essential, that it was 100% essential to being a medical animator, but I am finding out that it is 100% essential only when you want to freelance, and when you want to be a one-person powerhouse that can essentially go through the entire product line
Yeah.
of developing medical art or medical communication deliverable. In that case, absolutely, you need to have the accreditation of having some type of a degree that will teach you how to do your own medical and scientific research for production, do your pre-production, production, and post-production, the communication in between, certainly. But the larger the company that it is that you work in, the less there is a need to be that type of all-round general qualified medical artist type situation. I'm starting to hear about people being in the medical animation field mainly who just have effects and animation degrees or just 3D degrees, who then are cooperating or in a team with folks who do have that medical background or just medical research or medical art, and can kind of direct them.
Yeah.
And I would say this type of delegation works for larger companies, because you have a person who's a amazing dedicated powerhouse in just 3D, and with the right type of guidance, you can make sure they adhere to certain scientific factual basis. So I guess in short, if you want to work just for yourself as a freelancer, it's absolutely needed. If you want to work in a bigger company, suddenly not as much.
Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah, that answers the questions. Um, what do you what softwares do you use the most often? And what would you recommend the beginners who are just starting out to like get started with? What softwares do you use? Which tools would you recommend?
Right. I think there's a good variety of tools out there just now. If we're talking within the bounds of 3D medical animation, then your low cost but good performance tools would be Blender
Yeah.
because you can configure it at any way you want. It's a community tool. So if you just look for a while, there's a lot of very affordable add-ons and plugins that make Blender, I would say, com- competition to Maxon and Maya and all of the other ones. So Blender's always a good start. No one will fault you for that, but it's still considered to not be industry standard, so to
Yeah,
speak.
it's not in
Yeah,
the pipeline. I've seen like many studios requiring every medical animator to have like Cinema 4D and in their practice, or they
exactly.
not hire you. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. And also, since I'm also a Cinema 4D user, in fact, I did use Blender first when I started out as a medical animator.
Hmm.
I felt like there was something missing in Blender. I don't know what it was, but it's like the more I started using Blender, I felt like there was just something I'm missing. I don't know what it was, but when I started using Cinema 4D, it was like a huge shift from in the workflow. I mean, things became so easy for me, and I just don't know. I can't just pinpoint to the thing that
No,
was
no,
just
I get you.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, but it was just so smooth to be working in Cinema 4D. I mean, it's easier to be working in a Cinema 4D for as a medical
Yeah.
animator. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I know what you mean because the thing that's missing that Blender doesn't have is
Yeah,
millions and millions of research and development poured into
yeah,
its engines, its rendering, its interface, and it shows. Like you said, the thing that is required by a lot of the animation studios is having experience with the Maxon package. So that would be your ZBrush, no, Substance Painter is under Adobe now, but it used to be Substance Painter for texturing, and your Cinema 4D. So that would
yeah,
be one, and then Autodesk package, which would be your Maya and everything that's part of that, which is still very competitive. But
yeah.
I would say with Maya, the it's not as intuitive as Maxon.
Yeah, I
But
also like Maya is just for like is mostly for I may be a biased thought, but I feel like Maya is more for like rigging, character rigging, and not really for like only for like modeling and character. It's like optimized for like modeling and character rigging.
yeah,
Uh, and Cinema 4D is more like for like 3D motion graphic stuff and all of that.
well, if we want to talk about 3D motion graphics and effects, then you have a whole different kind of worms, which would be your Houdini, for example.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's a lot of dedicated tools. I would say there's definitely a time and place for rigging and character modeling as well. I feel like a lot of the times when we work on cellular and molecular level with medical animation, you don't get to see it a lot. But knowing how to rig and how to model in a topologically safe and sound way is very important. Anyway, that's a segue.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So, okay. So, are there any tools or platforms that have helped you become more efficient as a medical artist, or increase your income in terms of like bettering your workflow?
Hmm. Hmm. Are there any tools apart from the obvious one that I'll get to in a sec? I would say what helped me a lot because I can be a little bit scatterbrained. I'm easily distractible and I have a lot of enthusiasm about what I do, but sometimes I kind of just get a little bit of tunnel vision and lose focus. So what helped me was getting notes, getting research, everything on one place. For that, tools like Notion are fairly good. Notion, Figma, I wonder what else. Just those general kind of artboardy tools to just put everything that you need in one place. Time tracking has helped me a bit because
That's a huge.
as
I think that's a huge one for me as well
yeah,
because I feel like I feel like I feel like keep I lose all track of time when I'm working on a project.
Hmm.
I'm this needs to be so accurate, and I'm like
Yeah,
lost. I'm just finding all kind of mood boards, and I'm just going everywhere to make that thing look so perfectly fine that I just lose track of all the time.
exactly. And I mean, the last tool would be any type of good large language model. So be it either ChatGPT or the one
Definitely.
by Google, what is it, Copilot, any of those, because they're at the point where they can function as your personal assistant who you don't have to pay that much. They can collect research for you quite well. Right now, the newest ChatGPT can also cross-reference and provide you with factual information and links to that factual information, so you can double check if that's correct. It can boil things down for you if needs be, take notes. So it's an amazing, essentially a PA, which shaves down a lot of the time.
Yeah, I get it. So, Patrick, I like to talk about beginners who are just trying to break into the market.
Hmm.
Um, and so, oh, how can a beginner break into the medical animation industry today? Like, what are the first steps, or the first projects, or the clients that they could target? How do they start out when there are other competitors out there? How do they start out, get their first client?
Right. That's a really good question. I think it breaks down again to, do you want to work for yourself, or do you want to work as a team member in a larger company? If you want to work for yourself, then you need to get on that algorithm train, essentially. So you need to pray to the LinkedIn and Instagram gods and hope that being a consistent poster with good amounts of tags and good amounts of interaction will eventually get you into the circles you need. I would say instead of interacting with a very narrow circle of medical artists, you need to start interacting with the consumers. So that would be universities, colleges, papers, and journals, and get yourself out there. Because what I found at the start of my practice is there was a lot of focus on how to interact with only fellow medical artists and how to kind of network with them. But fellow medical artists will not buy your medical art unless you're really good and they're a really big net.
Yeah.
So I found that reaching out to PhD programs and to researchers and being like, hey guys, I produce something that's kind of in the same line of what you do. If you need anyone to produce your graphics or illustrations, if you have a diagram that you can scribble on a napkin, I can put it into like a nice digestible form. That helped me, but also there's a caveat. When I went to work as a medical artist, I went straight for a company. I didn't have to freelance until now.
Yeah.
So my route was, I got myself on an internship that became a position, and that became other position,
Mm.
and suddenly I'm here. So I'm still figuring that part out of
Yeah,
how to do it as a
I get
freelancer.
it. I get it, but so like how do I frame it? So
Yeah.
like there are people across the globe. So I've seen that UK has a lot of opportunities for medical animators, since there are a lot of studios there.
Hmm.
But as in other countries, like Asian countries, do not have a lot of you know they don't have this what do you call it, so much as much research happening as it's happening in US or UK, in the European
Hmm.
countries. So for the people living on the other side of the globe, they don't really have the opportunity to like work in a studio that's just sincerely dedicated for medical art. And so, like for me or someone, a beginner starting out, and not able to enter into in-house in a studio, how would
Hmm.
they really reach out to the journalist or the researchers, telling them that they can do this work for them? How exactly would they do it, despite the fact they're not in that zone?
Well, I would say with the internet and us as a population kind of being on chronically online, I think you can reach out. So what I used to do was I would find a university. With myself, I did find the ones in UK, but I'm sure that if you go and reach out to the ones in the US and UK, uh, amongst others, it'll be fine. And then just cold call them, see what their biology department's phone number or email is like, and just give them a phone. You'd be surprised the number of people, A, happy to hear someone's new voice, and B,
Really?
happy to see the interests, happy
Okay.
to see someone kind of just engaging with them. Because at the end of the day, we all like to hear that, I found you online and I think your stuff is cool. Let me help you out with that.
Yeah, that's
So
great because we've always heard like the cold calling doesn't work and you got a network and all that stuff. So
yeah,
yeah,
but how will you network if you're in a remote area where there's no net to work?
obviously, yeah, you're
Yeah.
correct. I agree with you. So yeah. Okay, uh, so let's talk about monetization and making good money being a medical artist. So, what do you think? What are the most lucrative areas in medical animation? Like there are different fields like pharma, surgical radios, patient education. Those that pay off really well being a medical animator. What do you think are the one that's most lucrative?
Right. This is something that I haven't worked in, but I've been hearing that pays really well, and that's litigation. That's being a medical artist for court cases and for lawyers, and essentially being able to take X-ray or a CT of someone's broken spine after a car accident, let's say, and be like, "Hey guys, this is what happened, and this is why you owe us millions." That I heard pays quite well. Not those millions, obviously, but since it's such a high stake, high risk situation that the medical artist is in, it usually compensates quite well. And another side of what pays well as a medical artist is, and I hate to say this, but not doing medical art. Essentially becoming a consultant, becoming a person who runs a medical art studio or a company and doesn't do as much of the art, but kind of does the scheduling, project management, and liaising.
Yeah,
But being actually making medical art and making good money out of it is yeah, then you need to just run your own practice and be your own boss type situation if you want to still produce medical art.
yeah, I get it. So, like, okay, so can you give a rough idea of income potential of a medical animator, like the starting salary versus high-end earners in UK?
So in UK, the starting positions for animators and artists in the medical art industry are about £26,000 a year. And it really varies. It really varies on people's skill sets and how much they can haggle and negotiate, I guess. Also varies on the area hugely. There seems to be about £5,000 to £10,000 difference between what's being paid in London, where I just moved recently, to what it was when I used to live in Scotland. But that's obviously adjusted for the cost of living.
Yeah,
I would
okay.
say for the starting position, anywhere between 26 and £28,000 in UK would be understandable.
Mm, okay, all right. So, we're gonna now talk about market demand and future outlook. So, what do you think where's the greatest demand for medical animators right now?
Where?
Yeah, like, um,
So that's a really tough question. You definitely in pharmaceuticals right now.
pharmaceuticals. Yeah.
A for the amount of recent development in that,
Mm,
and B for the fact that US pharmaceutical industry is so reliant on advertising to the consumer themselves that
yeah.
they will not run out of the need of essentially having pleasant and engaging visuals to kind of feed to the straight up to the consumer. That will be one. Medical devices are quite good for that as well. for when it comes to mainly us 3D folks, because then you can sell to medical device companies straight up, or you can sell your visuals to the end consumer, to the marketing people. Really depends, because when you create for medical device company, suddenly your consumer will be the marketing people who need to understand what they're selling, the end consumer to kind of understand what they're buying. So suddenly the pipeline moves up the company a little bit more. So that's good. Yeah, I think in those mainly, but that's my personal experience. Obviously, very biased.
No, you're right. I agree with you. So I've seen like the big companies like Random 42. Uh, you've seen Random 42, Mad Micro, like the big giants.
Hmm.
So they're integrating the use of AR and VR in like huge conferences.
Yeah.
And what? So yeah. So how has the rise of AR, VR, or AI impacted the field and income potential?
So I would say so. These are two wildly different type of technologies, but let's start with AR and VR. So augmented and virtual realities.
Yeah.
I think the appeal is enhanced immersion of whoever's consuming the product.
Yeah.
So let's go with first uninteractable AR and VR. So essentially 3D animations and 3D illustrations.
Mhm.
Suddenly you have this amazing cinema experience of what's unfolding in front of you, which is great. And
Mhm.
when you add interaction, so this is something that I worked on a few years back. It was essentially a surgical simulator for an XY company that was a full human body part that you could disassemble
Oh,
into ligaments, bones, vessels, and nerves. And then you would be able to perform surgery on that as well. So imagine being able to pop up that body part in your hand and then pull it apart and kind of just have all the bits floating. And that it provides amazing 3D understanding of what's where. And when it comes to places like the intercranial spots, the orbit, or the inside of the brain, those are very 3D demanding and very complex in that type of sense. So in that way, it really helps having something that you can quasi hold in your hand and turn around.
yeah.
When it comes to AI in medical, I think the appeal for larger companies and for medical artists in general is we race with time. Whenever we produce, our time is precious. Because the more time we spend on something, the less of a monetary turnaround we have. Because we're competing for time with other people who would be able to maybe produce it with seconds less.
Yeah.
Um, and for certain deliverables, like backgrounds and certain types of effects where you don't need to be too correct or people will not look too much, maybe you can use pictorial AI, but
Mhm.
I would still be very apprehensive. It's still not too great.
Yeah.
Textual AI, with the way it fact checks itself, that's a little bit better. So I would say textual AI, like I mentioned previously when we were talking about tools, is a good tool to kind of use as your own personal assistant. Always double check it, because as medical artists, we're trusted to know our stuff.
Yeah, because
So
we have this accuracy, scientific accuracy that we need to look up to. So
absolutely.
that's yeah. So yeah, but I think we're not far away from that point where AI will be that efficient, where we will be using AI for like medical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess so. So okay, so that's that. Okay, so lastly, I'd like to have some tips and advice from you for the beginners and the noobs. What's the one thing you wish you knew when you started out as a medical animator?
Mm. Hmm. Hmm. um, that don't be afraid to copy people.
Yeah,
Plain and simple. As
that's
a starting animator, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You first need to be able to ride the wheel and get hired,
yeah,
then get good at riding the wheel, and then you can start slowly disassembling and reassembling the wheel.
yeah,
So find
great.
the studio you like, uh, show them your appreciation of their work by creating a lot of similar work by which you learn what you do and how to do it, improve at what you do, and yeah, take it from there. Because I think I, as a starting medical animator, was like, this is everything's cool that's being done, but let me see if I can put my spin on it.
Yeah.
My spin was not spinning. My spin was me falling off of that wheel a couple of times. So I think don't be afraid to take inspiration. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't be afraid to just reach out to people. We're all on the same boat here. A lot
Yeah.
of the people who are kind of powerhouses in the industry are just as anxiety ridden and just as in need to pay their rent as you are. They've just been at it for longer.
I think you're put in a lot of isolation when you're just working inside of your computer and like in your room, and it feels so isolating. And then there's the big part is like getting into the technical difficulties and then trying to figure that out all the while keeping the aesthetics and everything
Yeah.
on your mind, like being that medical that aesthetic, the artist part of you in that place, and keeping that technical part of you on the other place. It's just really hard, and it just makes you feel very anxious and isolated at the same time because you're also like artists have this tendency of becoming introverted and not reaching out for help to people, and
Mhm.
so yeah, it's a hard journey to cope up with. I feel like.
Well, the way I believe a lot of the platforms where medical artists post their work works is everyone's just being positive and upbeat and motivational and inspired. So suddenly, when you struggle, you feel like something's wrong with me. I'm
Yeah.
just not living up to the standard that's being posted online. However, that's the confirmation bias of these networks and these platforms is everyone posts their best work and everyone posts about how well they're doing out
Yeah.
of the same fear, because
Yeah.
if we show a bit of weakness, that means we're suddenly not competing with our competition that might be doing the same.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So, how do you stay updated on both medical science and animation techniques?
How do I what sorry how do I stay updated on both
Yeah,
medical?
like the medical part and the animation techniques. Like
Mhm.
those two are like on like different sides on different edges.
Yeah, I feel like with both of them, the very easy way to get update to get on track with what's happening recently with them is get get on social media and find someone who's nerdier about those things than you are.
Yeah,
So I like to follow a couple of medical researchers and medical doctors who kind of just feed me digests of what's happening in medicine so that I can go offline or well go online but off TikTok to see, oh, this is happening and that is happening. We have a new, let's say, HIV medication that can be injected twice a year that's FDA approved, and that happened only, a few months ago, that I wouldn't be able to know because if it wasn't for having this and this person followed on this and this platform. So I would say, yeah, follow a bunch of people who know more about what you do than you do.
yeah,
And sometimes just reading an odd um, science journal is nice as well.
yeah. I get your point. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
But just injecting a fun aspect to it all is amazing because all the rest of our work is serious.
yeah, I get it. So my last question to you is like, what separates an average medical animator from a top earning one? What are the things that separate the two from each other?
Hmm. I would say two things: being a technical master of your craft, so that you can, execute your vision as an animator, and to have a good vision, to have a good aesthetic judgment that's supported by, understanding the principles of visual communication, understanding layout, composition, design, lighting, color, contrast, your usual design principles, and those two will get you good work.
Yeah, I
they
get
will they will produce you good work. What you need then afterwards is the perseverance to keep posting that good work,
it.
and to keep yourself on the back of people's minds, back of the hiring team's minds, who you'd be surprised how often like the HR and the animation teams look through social media under the hashtags of medical animation, medical art, just to see who's interesting there. I remember when I was working for Now Medical, we would kind of just have a little huddle to see whoever the new graduates are from like the medical art degrees, and see, who's promising, who's doing what, who what the projects are. So yeah, consistency with producing work, being good at the technical aspects of your work, and then being able to visualize the product that you want to make.
Oh, I get it. So sorry.
It's a
Well,
lot.
another last question for you. That was just popping up on my mind. So like,
Mhm.
what do you think? Is freelancing a better option, or working in a high-end studio a better option, or working with an agency is a better option? What do you think?
Right. Really depends on how you trust in yourself and how much self-control you can get or you can have. Because if you have high trust in yourself, high confidence, and a lot of self-motivation and self-control, being a freelancer is perfectly fine. I know a lot of people who are making it work quite well.
Yeah.
Um, if you want a little bit more stability and consistency, then going for either working with an agency or working as a part of a studio is better. But then you're trading off your own, not necessarily individuality, but part of your agency
Yeah.
to someone's higher ups decisions.
I get it. Like,
Which,
it's a feeling that I can relate to. So like, whenever I was working for a company
yeah.
back 2 years ago, and it felt like I'm doing such a good work, but I cannot share it with the people. So like,
Also, yes.
trading so much for the sake of just earning money, and that idea just did not felt right to me, and I
Mhm.
was like, oh my god, this is not for me. Yeah.
No, I absolutely get you.
Branding yourself in front of the people just misses out. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's a big thing for me. That's a big one for me. Becoming a brand and like showing up on social media, posting your work. That's
Yeah.
a and receiving appreciation and an audience is like a big thing for an artist. I
Mhm.
feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about the audience, there's another aspect that's different between being a freelancer to working for an established studio, and that is the client network.
Yeah.
When right after I transitioned from being under a company to being a freelancer, suddenly the wealth of the potential clients to reach out to, or who my managers and my company owners already had relations with, I didn't have access to, because a lot of the larger companies, let's say Spitball, AstraZeneca, for example, they exclusively hire full-fledged blown studios. They don't even communicate necessarily with single freelancers. So that door kind of closes if you don't work as part of a studio, which was interesting to see, to be honest. Because I reached out to them after I worked with them as a part of a studio. I was like, "Hey guys, so I'm working on my own now. You liked my work previously. How about we get things going?" And they're like, "Yeah, thank you, but no, thank you."
I get it because I've experienced this as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
I know it's. I don't know. Yeah,
They
but
just want the reliability of a larger studio, because
yeah,
then I think they think they're a little bit more secure. But
yeah,
that's
because
just me
it's
thinking.
done more efficiently and not relying on a single person. It's a whole team working for the project. So
Exactly.
yeah, that matters a lot for a big
Yeah.
company.
But yeah, I'm still figuring the whole freelancing thing out as well. So
It's a journey.
you'll need to ask me in a few months.
Yeah, I will. So thank you, Patrick, so much for giving us your time and sharing your valuable insights with us. I'm so grateful that you joined with us.
No
So
worries.
I'll keep in touch with you. So see you soon.
Yeah, please. Call me anytime. It's been lovely. I hope I wasn't talking anyone's ears off, because I tend to ramble.
No, 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 not at all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you later.
Yeah.
Bye.